How much time does it take to operate as a freelance health content writer? That is a common question that I get, and it requires more than a couple of sentences via LinkedIn messages to answer. So I am going to answer that question in today's video. Happy Health Writing Wednesday, everyone, and thanks for joining me. My name is Megan Freeland. I'm a public health pharmacist turned health content strategist. I run the Health Professionals to Health Writers Accelerator program, which is a 6-month accelerator that teaches pharmacists and other healthcare providers how to replace a portion of their income and leverage their clinical expertise as freelance health content writers. So happy to have you here this week. And I'm excited to dive into this question because when I ask graduates of my program what potential students need to know before they enroll, they always talk about the time commitment. And the funny thing is that they do know the time commitment before they start the program, but it's one thing to know the time commitment, and it's another thing to have to actually give the time commitment. And just to be upfront, the time commitment for the program is 4 to 7 hours per week. So I ask that students who enroll are able to commit to 4 to 7 hours per week. And that range depends on what phase of the program you're in, because if you're working on your portfolio, that's going to be a lot more time intensive and you're going to be closer to that 6 to 7 hour end of the range, where some of the other phases might be closer to the 4 to 5 end of the range. But in reality, that time commitment is intense for a reason. I am very intentionally preparing my students for what it is actually like to work as a freelance health content writer in the real world. And being a freelance health content writer is time consuming. It is not a passive income source. It's not something that you do if you don't have a lot of time, but you want to make good income. Like it's not that type of thing. So if that is something that you're looking for, I just frankly and honestly would encourage you to look into other types of ways of creating income streams. When you are a freelancer of any type, you are running a business. I'll repeat that. When you are a freelancer of any type, you are running a business. So that means you're not only providing whatever service you're providing. If you're a writer, you're not just writing. If you are a designer, you're not just designing. If you are a podcast producer, you are not just producing the podcast. You are responsible for doing all of the other activities that allow you to generate business. So how are you getting clients? How are you marketing your services? How are you managing the clients you already have? How are you creating testimonials? How are you compiling and building and displaying your portfolio? All of that business development is a part of the process of being a freelancer if you want to succeed and be a good freelancer. If you don't want to have any clients, that's one thing. But if you want to have clients, that's going to be really important. So not only when we talk about time, not only do you need time to write and to create the materials to actually deliver the service that you are contracted to deliver, you also need time to build and run your business. And that is why it is so time consuming to be a freelancer of any type, and in the context of what we're talking about, to be a freelance health content writer. So let's break down these broad components a little bit to get a clearer idea of the type of time we could be talking about. Now, a disclaimer, okay? Until and unless you develop specific goals for your freelance health content writing business, so how many clients you want to work with at a time, what type of income you want to be bringing in what period of time, etc., it is nearly impossible to estimate on an hourly unit of time how much time it actually takes you to be a freelance health content writer. So what I'm saying is the number of hours that it takes you per week or per month is going to depend on what your financial goals are, how many clients you want to be working with, how many blog posts you can write in a particular period of time, or how many packages you can deliver in a particular period of time. These are things that you have to have specific goals around in order to be able to time out in hours, in a unit of hours. So what we're going to talk about in this video is percentages of time. I'm going to talk to you about ranges of percentages of time that you might be spending in different aspects of your business so that you can at least use that to get a sense of what type of time we might be talking about. So learning is going to be a key responsibility in your business. If you are a beginner, learning is going to be a huge, if not the only part of your business up front, because you have to actually learn the skill and get the practice in so that you can actually have something solid and credible and authoritative to deliver to a client. So learning can take anywhere from, let's say, 10% to 90% of your time as a freelance health content writer. If you are new to the space, 90%, that end of the range is going to be more accurate for you because, again, you're spending all your time learning so that you can become a high quality service provider in this space. If you've been freelancing for a while and you already have clients, you have already learned the basics, then maybe you are somewhere lower, like 50% or lower. If you're in a space where you're like not learning a new skill at that moment, maybe you're around 10%. If you are leveling up or skilling up, trying to learn some complementary skills or supplementary skills to what you already have going on, maybe you're spending half of your time learning, right? It's just going to depend on what's going on for you at that time. But the overarching message here is that the earlier you are in your journey, the more time you are going to be spending on purely learning. The next section of, or the next like big skill set that you're going to be spending time on, obviously, is writing, because if you are a freelance health content writer, you are writing. Again, this is going to vary depending on where you are in your journey. Now, if you're earlier on in your journey, then you're going to be doing a lot of learning, but you're also going to be doing a lot of writing. That writing may not be paid. That might be personal writing you're doing in order to practice and build up your skill set. And you might be spending anywhere from 65 to 70% of your time doing that. If you are in a season where you have a few clients, or maybe even just one client, or maybe you have intentionally scaled down so you can focus on increasing your skills in another space or something, then you might be spending anywhere from 20 to 45 or 50% of your time writing. It's a common misconception that freelancers spend most of their time writing. To be honest, the writing becomes like the easy part, and all of the other stuff becomes what takes up most of the time. So it would not be, let me use a personal example. Last year, when I only took on one client for the year, I probably spent 30% of my time spent working on the business in the writing space. I probably only spent 30% of my time writing. And the rest of the 70% of time was in doing other activities that were important for the business. In times, let's say it was 2020 or 2019, where I might have had 6 or 7 clients at one time, I was probably spending 70 to 80% of my time writing. And the remaining percentage was spent on time managing the business, which we're going to talk about next. So it really depends on where you are in your journey. But I would say anywhere from 20 to 60, 65% of the time you're going to spend writing. And then managing the business, like I just mentioned. This is an area where if you don't spend enough time here, you are going to be more likely to encounter the feast and famine of freelancing that you hear about. So those like really high highs where you've got great clients and things are going well, and those really low lows where you realize while you had those clients, you weren't doing enough business development or working on your business to generate new leads and new clients. And so when those clients go away, you're in this space where you don't have anyone in the pipeline and things are bare. and dry. And so you have to hustle, hustle, hustle to get some more clients. And then it's this feast or famine up and down. And you really want to try to avoid those stark peaks and valleys. And the way that you do that is by continuing to prioritize business development, even when you have a client load that you're happy with. So, that being said, time spent managing the business might range anywhere from 30 to 80%, depending on where you are and your individual needs as a business owner. It should never be zero. It should never be less than 30%, to be very honest, because again, you want to make sure you have a strong pipeline, so that as clients are offboarded, you have clients who are available and ready to be onboarded. And then you, again, don't have those stark ups and downs and periods of feast and famine. The beautiful thing about freelancing, which I always say, is that it's pretty adaptable and it's adjustable to meet your needs. So you can determine how much time, you can work backwards to determine how much time you have available in your life realistically, and figure out how you can make freelancing fit into that space. How can you manage those hours you have available, to let you know how much time you need to be spending in each of these areas. So for example, if you know you have 10 free hours a week to work on your business, all right, how am I going to distribute those 10 hours across learning, writing, and managing the business in order to make this work with the time you have available in your life? What's most important is the commitment and the follow through on the time that you have allotted to these areas. It's great to set goals. It's great to create plans, but if you don't execute on the plans or follow the plans, it's going to be more difficult to accomplish those goals. So don't forget that, along with, doing the calculations about how much time you have and how much time you're going to spend on different tasks, you also want to make sure that it's sustainable and that it's reasonable, so that you can actually commit to following through on those and achieving what you're trying to achieve. So again, there is no clear and concrete answer unless you already have specific financial and client goals laid out. But hopefully these breakdowns by percentage will help you get a more realistic idea of how much time you might be spending on these three primary tasks as a freelance health content writer. If you've got follow-up questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. As always, if you're interested in learning about future cohorts of health professionals, health writers, you can comment the word waitlist, and I can reach out to you via direct message to share more information. Share this with a friend who might also have the same question, and I'll see y'all on the next Health Writing